The American Cotton Shippers Association, also known as AXA, is a trade association primarily made up of cotton merchants, founded in 1924. AXA members manage the majority of the cotton trade, providing merchandising, delivery logistics, and risk management services to their customers. AXA is grateful to Senator Cindy Hyde Smith of Mississippi for introducing the Buying American Cotton Act of 2025, which will build structural demand for U.S. cotton. Since the bill's introduction, there have been 8 additional senators co-sponsor. AXA urges all cotton industry stakeholders to support this initiative by reaching out to your congressional delegation and requesting their support for this legislation.
Well, it's officially fall, and that always means almost anything other than snow or ice can happen weather-wise across the Cotton Belt. Here in the Mid-South, it's dry. It's officially droughty, in fact, and weeks of dry weather have impacted much of this area's cotton crop, pushing it faster and faster through cutout and quickly toward harvest. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and welcome back to Cotton Grower Magazine's Cotton Companion podcast. Joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague, Beck Barnes. Now, Beck, as we're speaking, it has rained for the first time in about 6 weeks in the upper Mid-South. And normally growers would like to get a last drink of water on their crop as harvest nears. But right now, I'm thinking some growers may have mixed emotions about this extra moisture.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it, Jim. You know, we've mentioned on the podcast before, when I go down 61 home to the mid-Delta, to Leland, Mississippi, and seeing a lot of those fields in the kind of upper Delta, some of them just never got planted because we had such a rainy planting window. And so some guys out there, it's like they have 2 different crops. The crop that they got in before that month long of rain happened, and then whatever they were able to squeeze in once it finally dried up. So yeah, for those dudes, the rain is great for half their crop, well, half their farm, and the other half they wish it would knock off. So yeah, I can't imagine the mixed emotions, the mental calculations you'd have to make in that scenario. But yeah, we hope it turns out as well as it can for everybody, obviously. Here on the home front, as I was just telling you, my yard has greened up because we got a good rain yesterday for the first time in a while. So suddenly I'm not the driest, ugliest yard here in my East Memphis neighborhood. So I'm thankful for that personally.
Well, I'm glad because we don't want your neighbors out there with pitchforks and torches.
They're in the group
outside your house.
Yeah, they're trying to. The HOA's come after me if I don't figure something out. This sprinkler system.
Well, we don't have homeowners associations in cotton, basically, but today we're going to talk a bit more about this Mid-South crop with Sebe Brown. He is the University of Tennessee Extension entomologist, and since he's part of a great group of Cotton Belt entomologists, we're also going to discuss the newly discovered cotton jassid pest that's been making inroads across the Southeast, parts of the lower Mid-South, and over into Texas. This pest is not cotton friendly, and a lot of work has happened quickly in the Southeast to determine some basic scouting and control guidelines. And we're going to talk about the jassid, as well as how these recent dry conditions are impacting harvest in just a few minutes.
Yeah, Jim, I'm looking forward to hearing that. A little peek behind the curtains. Jim captured that interview at a field day he was at. What was that, a couple of weeks ago now? A week ago?
About a week and a half ago, yes.
Yeah, and so I was here at the home office, and so that'll be first time I get to hear that interview when I listen to this episode. So I'm looking forward to that. Jassid pest it fascinates me. I'm interested to learn about it. So we also, Jim, as you know, have a lot of other items of interest since our last episode that have been happening out there in the belt. The biggest, in my opinion, the most interesting is this introduction of the National Cotton Council's Plant Not Plastic program, which takes aim at microplastic pollution, especially in clothing. That's something, Jim, that's been front of mind for me since we heard Joe Nicosia go into detail about it at the Mid-South Farm and Gin Show earlier this year in the winter. And boy, it was eye-opening, some of the stuff he was talking about, the ways that how insidious microplastics are in our lives. So This thing the council's doing, it is a research-driven program based on a recent survey that showed that consumers are largely in the dark about this issue of microplastic pollution. Despite our widespread concern, many feel lost on how to effectively address the issue. A quick look at some of the numbers really kind of help illuminate this challenge, the severity of this challenge. The survey found that only 33% of consumers feel very aware of microplastic pollution, and that only 42% of those aware connect microplastic pollution with their clothing. It also revealed that 34% of respondents showed a lack of clear information on guidance regarding the issue, and 32% were unsure about specific actions to take. The survey also addressed the level of interest regarding recent scientific discoveries impacting human health. That's the type of stuff Joe was getting into back in February. These numbers show that 63% of consumers consider microplastics impacting human health a major concern, and 68% are highly concerned about microplastics getting into the products we eat and drink. The Plant Not Plastic initiative aims to bridge the knowledge gap by educating consumers on the simple, impactful choices of natural fibers in their clothing to reduce microplastic pollution and its potential health implications. The program has some very specific goals, and it has already garnered a lot of interest and support over a very short period of time. I could say personally, I've seen it on the farmers that I follow have run with this thing since it was introduced. I've seen it on my Facebook feed. Me personally, there's not an Ole Miss message board that has not seen the Plant Not Plastic link, because I've been putting it out there too. So listen, you can find more details about the Plant Not Plastic program on our website, cottongrower.com. And of course, we are going to be discussing more specifics on an upcoming episode of the Cotton Companion podcast scheduled right now for October. So tune in for that. The Cotton Board is kicking off plans for their annual cotton industry calendar with the 2026 calendar photo contest. So all you amateur photographers out there, get your cameras ready because the folks at the Cotton Board want to see your best calendar-worthy cotton-related photos. One winning photo will be selected and featured in the 2026 calendar. The board is looking for photos that capture cotton at any stage of production, from planting through harvest. They want cotton to be the focus of each photo. No people included in the shot. So, you got cotton kid pictures, send those to us. Send just the cotton photos, no kids, to the board. Up to 3 entries per contestant will be considered. The contest is going to run through Friday, October 3rd at 5 p.m. Central, and the winning photo will be announced on Wednesday, October 8th. So you've only got about a little over a week and a half to get these photos in. So if you got them, don't tarry, don't waste time. More details about photo format, how to submit photos, and other contest details and rules can be found at cottongrower.com and at cottonboard.org. Now, a quick reminder that the National Cotton Council's Farm Bill information meetings that we heard about in the last episode of the Cotton Companion, those are still going on through early October in parts of Texas. Please check the meeting schedule and plan to attend these valuable lessons if they are in your neck of the woods. If you're in Texas right now and listening to this, go online, check that schedule. You can find it at cottongrower.com. Go to cottongrower.com, go to our homepage, just enter Farm Bill meetings in the search bar, and you'll be able to pull up that schedule. Finally, last item here from the USDA's Crop Progress Report for September 21. Today is the 23rd as we pod. So this is from 2 days ago. As we start moving into harvest season, the total U.S. crop is now rated 47% good to excellent, 35% fair, and 18% poor to very poor. 12% of the total crop is already sitting in the gin yard, and that is thanks to harvest activity in that southern reach of the belt. That's Texas, Arizona, parts of Texas, Arizona, and Louisiana.
Well, it's been a long and often difficult season for cotton across most of the Mid-South with some late wet planting conditions, a slow start in many areas, some prevented planting, acreage shifts, and maybe even some late planted fields. Now, one aspect of this growing season we haven't touched on very much is pest management. It seems like economics and politics and weeds have pretty much taken center stage for most of this year. But joining me to help fill in the rest of this season's story is University of Tennessee Extension Entomologist Sebe Brown. Sebe, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay. First of all, we have talked to Texas and we have talked to Georgia and other parts of the Cotton Belt this year about what the crop has looked like. What's the Tennessee and the upper Mid-South crop season been like so far?
It's we struggled. I mean, it was early. Getting planted was a real struggle. We had so much rain, we were so wet, and we were cool that we had guys that struggled a lot to get in the ground. And that really kind of summarized us in West Tennessee is that we had guys that got in. If you got in April, you were typically fine. If you waited to May, if you waited to May 5th and on, you had to fight rains, and you would have to, you dry out and it rain again. And then we would catch a day window. They'd plant what they could. Then we catch 6 inches of rain. I mean, we received 60% of our annual rainfall in 6 weeks in Tennessee. And so that started about April 1 and then went all the way through May, basically. So it was very hard early season. So,
and how do things look right now? And now we've kind of come through the wet season. We've gone through the humidity dome, and we're heading it down the home stretch here. How are things looking?
And the spigot turned off, and so we were very wet early, which allowed us to not form any roots, and so we had no tap root. We had no good root. We had no good root development, and then we turned off dry. And then that taproot we'd hoped that would have been there when the cotton was dry, younger, was not there. And so the cotton had to sink it or try to do what it could. And we've run out of moisture. I mean, this cotton has struggled. Cotton has been cut out we had guys that let go of cotton the first week of August. And normally we're well into August before we stop scouting. But there were fields where we ran out of moisture. We ran out of variety. We ran out of nutrients. It was a kind of a perfect storm of things that just hit all at the wrong time for this cotton crop. And I think we're going to pay the price for it. I think especially running out of water. That's going to hurt us. It's during bowl fill. We were very dry. And so the bowls are small. The positions are limited. And then we've had a hard time agronomically getting this crop to really go to its potential.
Yeah. And we're sitting here like early to mid-September. Harvest is traditionally at least a month away from now. And we're looking at defoliation possibly starting here in the next week or so.
There's guys with April planted cotton have been defoliated for about a week. And so we've already got cotton that's dropping leaves and starting to open. And that's indicative of the guys that got in early. They're defoliating now. We're 2 to 3 weeks, if not maybe a month before where we should be. And so it's, our cotton is definitely, it's finished. And so that's the vast majority of the cotton in West Tennessee and in Middle Tennessee is just, we ran out of water and we're defoliating now when we should be thinking about defoliating in 2 weeks.
Yes. So what's interesting because we always said, 3 months ago, we were when this crop was about 2 weeks late. Mm-hmm. And now here we sit maybe 3 weeks early.
Yeah.
So
that's how it goes. I mean, that's just I guess it's the nature of farming.
It is.
You can't predict anything. So
no, not at all. Well, let's shift over to the pest side. Mm-hmm. Normally we're talking about thrips. We're talking about plant bugs, stink bugs, worm pressure. From that perspective, was it really kind of a normal year, or were pest numbers a little bit higher, a little bit lower? Did the late start impact anything?
So the rain hurt us with thrips. So typically when we see very wet springs, our thrips numbers are lower. When we have dry springs, our thrips numbers are higher. That's typically how it trends. In the past couple of years, we've had very wet springs. So our thrips numbers are lower. The problem is when you have wet, cool soils, that slows cotton growth and development. And then what limited number of thrips you have a longer window of opportunity to sit there and just work on your cotton. And it makes it look awful. It looks as bad or worse if we have good growing conditions and high thrips numbers versus low thrips numbers and bad growing conditions. So had a lot of guys that were, on the fence about spraying for thrips. I had a lot of guys that called. A lot of guys didn't want to do it because there was, the profitability of this crop was such a question mark, even sitting in a bag on the shop floor. So I had a lot of guys that I had to, kind of with the wall, I can do this versus doing this versus, and so A lot of guys let it go. They just said, if it's, I'm getting a rain, it's beating the thrips off. My cotton is growing a little bit, so let me see what we can do. And then that was a lot of those conversations early season. And then that translated into when we started putting squares on, we had so much moisture in the soil that every wildflower everywhere was blooming. And we had, everything you could think of. You had fleabane and Queen Anne's lace and coreopsis. And there was all kinds of different wildflowers on the sides of the roads, the ditch banks, everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that held all of our pigweed along with the clover, because the clover hung out because we didn't get hot for a while. So we had plenty of blooming flowers, and that delayed plant bug migration into our cotton. And then the spigot shut off, and everything started to senesce about July. I was trying to keep track of that. About the first week, July 4th, we started getting dry. And then the flowers, we got hot. The flowers senesced, and here come the plant bugs. And that also coincides with corn starting to go brown. You have brown silk. And so the corn are tasseled. We have brown silk in corn now, so that's going to push plant bugs into cotton. So we went from nothing, and then bam, we just kind of slid headlong into it. So, and then we fought plant bugs pretty hard there for about a month, and then they finally trickled off, and then here come the stink bugs. And then we've had a large number of stink bugs in our crop this year. I've gotten a lot of phone calls, even I've seen in my plots, just big numbers of stink bugs out there. And so that's another application guys need to make, or two, depending on, how long they have to fight them, for stink bugs. And so and then you add bollworm in there. Thankfully our 3-gene cottons are holding. We're not seeing the issues that say Mississippi and Texas and Louisiana see. Our 3-genes are making it. Mm-hmm. And so worm pressure was pretty heavy actually, but our BT genes kind of held the line. So we didn't have to really worry about spraying any of our 3 genes.
So you get threshold?
No, not that I heard of. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't have any failures. And then our worm pressure was probably higher than what we normally see. And the duration has been longer. We've just had worms continue. Even when the cotton kind of got to the point where it wasn't really palatable to them, the bolls were getting too hard, then they moved into the soybeans. And I'm still getting phone calls about corn earworms and beans. And normally that should have shut off 10 days ago, but they're still lingering around. So it's been a very odd year for insects.
It's been a year for the record book.
It has.
Not that you want to keep this as a standard.
No, I don't want to keep it as a standard. I would very much like to see light years for everything. It's great for farmers, not great for my research, but at the same time, farmers have got to catch a break somewhere.
Yeah. So we talk about thrips and plant bugs, and I think this is year 3 of Thrive On in the market?
Yes. Okay. I think it was commercialized in 22. So okay. Yes.
How did that help? I'm sure that helped with thrips early season for the growers who've had those varieties. How much do you think it helped them with some of their input costs?
I think it helped tremendously. And that's something that I recommended in our winter meetings, is that if you're on the fence about planting a variety or money's going to be an issue, plant Thrive On varieties, because Thrive On doesn't wash off. You don't have to worry about rain fastness. It grows with the plant. Mm-hmm. And I've seen in our trials where we never spray Thrive On for plant bugs, and we still are yielding 1,400 pounds. And this has had 0 applications for thrips or plant bugs. So the potential and the protection is there. Now, plant bugs can strip it, especially adults, but it's much better than non-Thrive On, to where if a grower runs out of money and they're like, I've got to walk away from this crop, you've got 0 protection with non-Thrive On. With Thrive On, you've got some inherent BT protection there that will help at least reduce the amount of plant bug issues that we have. And then what my grad student's shown is actually reduces stink bug damage too. So I think guys saved inputs pretty significantly in Thrive On. We also upped our threshold. So us in Arkansas, based on all the data that the Mid-South group has done, we've all worked together, even with the Southeast. We've all been looking at Thrive On, and we've actually doubled our tarnished plant bug immature threshold after bloom from 3 per 5 row feet to 6. So in theory, that should cut your sprays in half, because you can have double the amount of insects. So, and I've had quite a few consultants adopted that to help save money, and they said it saved them on sprays. So
that's good. Well, talking about your colleagues in the Southeast and everything, we've seen an awful lot of reports and discussion and activity over the last few weeks about the cotton jassid. First showing up in Florida, moving into Georgia. We've seen reports in Alabama, parts of South Carolina, North Carolina is looking at it.
Yep.
What can you tell us about this pest? How How does it damage plants? What kind of work is being done in terms of prevention? And do you see it as a potential threat for this Mid-South area?
So the jassid is an invasive insect. It's not native to the United States. It is native to India and Pakistan, and they fight it severely in their cotton crop over there. Best we know is that it probably came out of Puerto Rico. It's been in Puerto Rico for several years. It moved into southern Florida near the Miami area, and it has just worked its way north. It was found in the panhandle of Florida, I believe, in early July, and then it's just kind of spread since then, going north. We know the majority of the information we know is what we know from our, colleagues that work with it in other countries, honestly, Pakistan and India, things that early season monitoring reports that they have and how they control it. And then my colleagues in the Southeast have been working on this for about 6 weeks now, and they're trying to evaluate thresholds, insecticide use, what works, what are our options. And they've done a really great job, at least, like ringing the warning bell for us in the Mid-South,
right,
and everywhere else that, hey, this is coming, this is what it can do. And the big issue is the damage is what we call hopper burn. And so when they feed, hoppers do this. Potato leaf hopper does it in soybeans. It causes a hopper burn. It's a yellowing. It's a tone. In soybeans, it turns yellow, and this is the potato leaf hopper in soybeans make it turn yellow. The jassid in cotton, it'll turn yellow, the leaf will crinkle, and then it'll turn red and fall off. It basically burns the leaves off through this hopper burn.
Okay.
Yield penalties are unknown. We don't know, other than defoliating the crop, we don't know what the yield penalty is going to be. We don't know if it's injects a toxin that may spread to the bolls or developing squares or lint. We don't know that. At least I'm not aware of that yet. And I don't know if they are either. Thresholds are low, 1 to 2 nymphs per leaf. I mean, that's extremely low for an insect. And so, but that's preliminary thresholds they're using based on the data available. And then another question is overwintering. Because it's not native to the United States and it seems to be a more tropical pest, are we going to get, especially in the upper Mid-South and the Mid-South areas where we grow a lot of cotton, are we going to be too cold for it? And what are the alternative hosts? I think personally, not knowing a whole lot about it, I think we may get too cold in Tennessee, especially because we're cold for the Mid-South, Missouri, same way, and Arkansas, North Mississippi. But it's hard to say. It could survive. And so we're doing the best we can as the Mid-South to just kind of warn people to look for it. I know Tyler Tolles and Don Cook found it in Mississippi, I believe, on Monday. So they put alerts out about that. And then as far as where I'm at on it, I'm not overly concerned about the jassid in Tennessee. We are, as we talked about earlier, our cotton we are anywhere from 10% open to 80% open in some of our fields. Their cotton is finished. And even the late planted cotton is run out of horsepower. We're out of water, we're out of nutrients, we're out of season, we're done. If we get the jassid, I'm not overly concerned with it, just because if anything, it'll defoliate, it'll knock the leaves off for us, and we're going to have to add, a Folex shot or something. I want people to be aware, but I don't want to also scare people into, I need to go out and buy an insecticide. After I've already spent, X number of dollars on this crop, trying to be profitable. Okay, here's one more application I need to make. I'm not recommending for that in Tennessee. I'm recommending guys look for it so we can confirm it in the state. But do we need to do anything? I think the answer is going to be in the vast, vast majority of fields, no. It's going to just be something that it's here. We need to document it. And then what do? Walk away. I mean, it's not, our cotton production system is different than the Southeast. They plant much later than us. They plant full season varieties. Mm-hmm. Several fields are 5 nodes above white flower, some 6, depending on where they are, what time they planted. We're nodes above crack bowl now. We are not in white flower stages anymore. We are, nodes above harvestable bowl. So, but they also don't fight plant bugs either. Right. And so the Southeast states do not fight tarnished plant bugs or clouded plant bugs like we do in Tennessee and the Mid-South. And so if anybody grows cotton in the Mid-South, you have to rotate chemistries, and it's almost a weekly, you're overlapping residual control almost on a weekly to every 10 to 14 day basis. And most of the insecticides that we're using for tarnished plant bug are very effective on jaszids. And so if we have another, say for next year, if we have a heavy plant bug year and we're spraying I don't necessarily think the jassid are going to become that big of an issue for us. There's some anecdotal data out of Georgia where guys that are spraying for whiteflies don't have issues with jassids. And so a lot of those whitefly chemistries overlap depending on what you're using for tarnished. So I think we're going to be, this is very preliminary. This is my gut feeling. They're being an entomologist for a while, that I think we may not, our production is not going to take a hit like they do in the Southeast, just from we fight another whole different spectrum of insects that are relentless in our cotton, from, pinhead square all the way to cutout. And so, we have to stay on top of them, or they're going to rob us of you. Now, the one caveat is Thrive On. If we're not spraying Thrive On as much because we don't, we upped our threshold, that may be a cause of concern for the jassid, because the jassid could come in where you're not spraying for plant bugs like you would in a non-Thrive On scenario, and then they could come in and maybe hurt you. So that's one that we're going to look at it. And I'm leaning on my colleagues hard who are seeing this and doing all the legwork for us to give us insight into what works. Well, how does it look? How does Thrive On work on it? How do insecticides work on it, on Thrive On non-Thrive On? So there's a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to. These are just some of my gut feelings being an entomologist for a while, that I feel like that I think the Mid-South may be in a little bit better shape as far as control of the jassids in the Southeast. Yeah. So,
well, I saw something the other day from the New Farmer's Almanac, and their predictions for the winter, in terms of your overwintering and see how things work. And unfortunately, they're showing the Mid-South and most of the Southeast as a milder, drier winter.
Yeah. I hope, I don't know. I'm from Texas originally. I don't do cold weather that well. So I'm from South Texas. And so if mild winters, I like mild winters, but cold resets everything. Right. As I've seen this over my career, when you get very cold temperatures for extended periods of time, it hits the reset button on a lot of insects. And I think we need that as for ecological standpoint. The very cold, just miserable, brutal winters, it hits a reset button for a lot of different things. And so if we could get one, that would be great. If we have a mild winter and we barely hit freezing for whatever reason, then we'll have to take that as it comes. But
yeah,
I hope we have a hard winter just for the jazz.
Well, let's try and avoid those week-long polar vortexes.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't want to be -8 like we were last year. No, I don't want to do that. But if we could get in the teens, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm still digging out, dead shrubbery around my house from 2 years ago.
Yeah, we don't need that cold. Not that cold, not that quick.
No. Looking ahead, over the last couple of years, we've talked about some new chemistry that may be coming to the market. What's sort of the status of that right now?
So hopefully this month in September, Syngena's looking forward to having their Plonazoline or Vertento being registered by the EPA, getting a full Section 3 label. We are eagerly awaiting that, as well as entomologists, and our cotton growers are too. It's our first brand new mode of action into cotton production since, I guess, Transform in my career. And so we need it. It's desperately needed, and I think it's going to have a really good fit for us in cotton. I think it will transform the way that we control insects in cotton.
What's the primary target pest for that?
So it's going to be, based on what we've seen, it's got thrips activity, plant bug activity, stink bug activity, spider mite activity. It's very weak on worms, so it's not going to control bollworm. It's not going to catch like fall armyworms, things like that. But you will have a product that can control tarnished plant bugs, stink bugs, and spider mites in one spray. And so my research and some of my colleagues, if we're positioning it, maybe we could be second week of bloom, maybe third or somewhere in there, where you spray it and you walk away and you control plant bugs, stink bugs, and spider mites. And you may have one application that can control you until you're finished. And we'll see if that holds. But I've got quite a bit of data. I've looked at this compound since 2017, in anticipation of it coming, other than the delays from the EPA, in anticipation of us getting this. I've looked at it for several years, and we see, it's got a really good fit, that window, that after bloom window. And so I think it could revolutionize how we control insects in cotton.
At least adds another rotational product in there.
For sure. It takes the pressure off of the organophosphates and the transforms and the neonics. And so, because we have very limited tools in our toolbox, and we're just on a wheel, and we're just rotating them one after the other. And eventually one of them is going to burn out. And so it's not if, but when. and we desperately need this chemistry.
Right.
So, and we're very hopeful that we can get it. So
Definitely. See, thank you. I appreciate the time today. It's been a busy. We're here at the experiment station,
Yep.
West Tennessee Research and Experiment Station for a field day. It's been a great day, but I'm sure there's still a lot of things to do before we send those pickers out to the field.
oh yeah. It's the list is ongoing of things that still need to be done.
Yeah.
So
And Beltwide should be pretty interesting with all of this this late season research that.
yeah, Beltline will be it's going to be a good one. The insect section should be pretty heavily.
It should be.
It should be a lot of involvement from a lot of people about jassids and everything else. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Well, if nothing else, I'll see you in San Antonio.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to say thanks once again to Sebe Brown for joining in for today's discussion about the Mid-South cotton crop and the cotton jassid. Thanks, too, to the American Cotton Shippers Association for their continued support of this podcast. And as always, we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us, for your continuing support of our pod. We hope that you did enjoy this episode, and if you did like what you've heard, please be sure and spread the word and tell your farming friends and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. We're relying on you. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
Cotton Companion podcast is produced by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues, the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, he's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks with another episode of the Cotton Companion. Until then, stay safe.
'Cause God made me a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all